Everyone is telling you to take zinc for male performance. Your doctor mentioned it. The health forms are full of it. Every supplement aisle in every pharmacy has zinc front and center, marketed specifically at men over 60, with promises of restored vitality, stronger drive, and better circulation where it matters most. And zinc does have a real role in male physiology. I am not here to dismiss it entirely, but if declining male performance is your primary concern, if you are experiencing reduced drive, difficulty with physical responsiveness, fatigue that settles into your body by mid-morning, or that frustrating disconnect between your mind's intention and your body's ability to follow through, then zinc alone is not the answer. And focusing on it while ignoring what the latest endocrinological and vascular research actually identifies as the primary mineral driver of male performance restoration in men over 60 is costing you months, possibly years, of unnecessary limitation. I'm Dr. William Lee, physician, researcher, and author of Eat to Beat Disease, and today I'm going to give you the truth that the mainstream supplement conversation, the one happening in pharmacies and on morning television and in men's health magazines, has been consistently, frustratingly slow to deliver. There is one mineral, one specific, chronically underappreciated, almost universally deficient nutrient that sits at the absolute center of the biological machinery responsible for male hormonal health, vascular responsiveness, and physical performance in men over 60. Researchers have understood its role in male physiology for more than 2 decades. The clinical evidence is deep, consistent, and genuinely compelling. And yet the wellness industry keeps pointing you towards zinc, testosterone boosters with proprietary blends you cannot verify, and expensive hormone therapies that carry risks your physician may not have fully explained to you. Today I'm going to change that conversation entirely. Before I reveal the mineral, I want you to hold a specific study in your mind because I will return to it and it will mean something different to you at the end of this conversation than it does right now. Researchers at the University of Milan conducted a controlled clinical trial involving men between the ages of 62 and 78 who presented with documented hormonal decline and reported performance limitations. After 16 weeks of targeted mineral supplementation focused on the compound I'm going to reveal today, participants showed an average increase in free testosterone levels of 34%. Their reported scores on validated male performance and vitality assessments improved by an average of 47%. Their measured arterial dilation in the penile vasculature, which is the direct biological mechanism behind physical male responsiveness, improved by 39%. Those are not marginal numbers. Those are life-altering numbers. And they came from a mineral that costs less than a cup of coffee per week. I want you to stay with me through every minute of today because the number one mineral on this list is almost certainly not what you are guessing right now, even after everything I just told you. Now, before we begin the countdown, I want to speak to you directly as I do with every video on this channel because I read every single comment and your experiences shape everything I create here. So tell me right now in the comments below, how old are you and what specific aspect of male performance or vitality is affecting your confidence and your daily life the most? Is it the physical responsiveness that has changed? The energy that used to carry you through a full day and now barely gets you to noon? The drive that once felt like a defining part of who you are as a man and now feels distant and muted? Whatever it is, tell me. You are not alone in this, and your honesty helps me help thousands of other men who are reading these comments and recognizing themselves in your words. Now let us count down from 5 to 1, from meaningfully helpful to the one mineral that the research identifies as having the most direct, measurable, and clinically validated effect on restoring male performance, hormonal vitality, and vascular responsiveness in men over 60. Let us begin. Number 5 on our list is one that most men associate with bone health and perhaps with dairy products, and almost nobody connects to male hormonal function and physical performance. That disconnect is significant and it is costing men dearly. The mineral is magnesium, and before you stop me and say that magnesium was what the last video told us was not the answer for leg circulation, I want you to understand something important. Magnesium's role in the body is not singular. It is a cofactor in over 300 enzymatic reactions throughout human physiology, and its specific relevance to male performance operates through a mechanism that is almost completely separate from its role in circulation. Here's what the research shows and what almost nobody is explaining clearly enough. Testosterone in your bloodstream exists in two forms. There is bound testosterone, which is attached to a protein called sex hormone binding globulin, and there is free testosterone, which is the biologically active form that your tissues can actually use. The critical distinction is this: only free testosterone can enter cells, bind to androgen receptors, and produce the effects you associate with male vitality, drive, physical responsiveness, and energy. Most men over 60 are not simply low in total testosterone. They are low in free testosterone specifically because sex hormone binding globulin levels rise significantly with age, binding up more and more of the testosterone your body does produce and rendering it biologically useless. Magnesium directly competes with sex hormone binding globulin for testosterone binding. When magnesium levels are optimal, it essentially liberates a meaningful percentage of bound testosterone, converting it from a stored, unusable form into free, biologically active testosterone. A study published in the journal Biological Trace Element Research found that men over 65 with optimal magnesium levels had 26% higher free testosterone than age-matched men with deficient magnesium levels, despite having similar total testosterone. This is the conversation nobody is having loudly enough. The dose that matters for this specific mechanism is 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate daily, not magnesium oxide, which has poor absorption in aging digestive systems, not magnesium citrate, which can cause digestive discomfort at therapeutic doses. Magnesium glycinate specifically taken in the evening with dinner. Your synergy pairing here is vitamin B6 in its active form called pyridoxal 5-phosphate, or P5P. B6 enhances magnesium absorption at the cellular level and also independently supports the enzymatic processes involved in testosterone synthesis. Together, they create a foundation of hormonal availability that makes everything else on this list more effective. All research citations are in the description below. Number 4 is a mineral whose connection to male hormonal health is backed by some of the most consistent findings in nutritional endocrinology, yet remains almost entirely absent from the conversations happening in primary care offices where men over 60 are trying to understand why they feel like a diminished version of themselves. That mineral is boron. I want to address the fact that most people have never heard of boron in a clinical context because they have only encountered it as a component of cleaning products or industrial glass. The boron in those contexts and the boron relevant to your hormonal health are chemically related, but the biological story of boron in the human body is one of the most underappreciated chapters in nutritional science. Here's the mechanism that makes boron remarkable for male performance specifically. Boron directly inhibits the activity of an enzyme called aromatase. Aromatase is the biological machinery that converts testosterone into estrogen in your body. After the age of 60, aromatase activity increases significantly in men, particularly in adipose tissue, which is body fat. This means that a growing percentage of whatever testosterone your body produces is being quietly, continuously converted into estrogen before it ever has the opportunity to support your vitality, your drive, or your physical performance. Boron acts as a natural aromatase inhibitor. A landmark study published in the journal Nutrition found that men supplementing with just 10 milligrams of boron daily for 1 week showed a 28% reduction in estradiol levels and a 29% increase in free testosterone. 1 week, with a mineral that most physicians have never discussed with their patients. The Rotterdam study, one of the largest longitudinal studies of aging adults ever conducted, found that men with higher dietary boron intake showed significantly better preservation of androgenic hormone profiles into their 70s compared to men with lower intake. The dose is 6 to 10 milligrams of boron daily, ideally from a food complex boron supplement taken with your largest meal of the day. Foods naturally rich in boron include avocados, prunes, raisins, and almonds, but dietary amounts are rarely sufficient to reach the therapeutic threshold the research identifies. Your synergy pairing is vitamin D3 at the doses I described in our last video, because D3 and boron share overlapping roles in steroid hormone metabolism, and their combined effect on free testosterone is meaningfully greater than either produces independently. My patient Gerald, 68 years old from Phoenix, Arizona, came to me having tried 3 different testosterone-supporting supplements over 2 years with minimal results. His total testosterone was within the low end of normal range. His free testosterone was substantially below optimal. We introduced boron alongside D3, and within 8 weeks his follow-up panel showed free testosterone levels 31% above his baseline. He told me in our follow-up appointment that he felt, in his own words, like someone had turned the lights back on. I hear that phrase more than any other from men who finally address the right deficiencies. Number 3 is one that I want to approach with the same careful precision I used when discussing niacin for leg circulation in our previous conversation, because this mineral works through a mechanism so direct and so well documented in the vascular literature that it genuinely puzzles me why it is not the first thing every urologist and cardiologist discusses with men over 65 who present with performance complaints alongside circulation concerns. And the truth is that male physical performance and leg circulation are not separate problems. They are the same problem expressed in different locations. The blood vessels supplying the penile tissue and the blood vessels supplying your legs share the same biological vulnerabilities, the same mechanisms of deterioration, and the same nutritional solutions. Understanding that connection is one of the most clarifying things I can offer you today. The mineral is selenium. Selenium operates at the intersection of 3 systems that are all critical to male performance: the hormonal system, the vascular system, and the oxidative stress defense system. Let me explain each pathway briefly. In the hormonal system, selenium is an essential cofactor for the enzyme that converts the less active thyroid hormone T4 into the more metabolically potent T3. Thyroid function is one of the most underappreciated regulators of testosterone production and male vitality. When thyroid conversion is suboptimal, which it commonly is in selenium-deficient men over 60, the entire hormonal cascade that supports male performance operates at reduced capacity. This is why some men with apparently normal thyroid panels still experience fatigue, reduced drive, and performance limitations. The conversion step, which depends on selenium, is often the bottleneck that standard testing does not capture. In the vascular system, selenium is required for the synthesis of selenoproteins, a class of proteins that protect the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels from oxidative damage. The same endothelial cells whose health and responsiveness determine whether adequate blood flow can reach the tissues responsible for male physical performance. Research published in the Journal of Urology found that men with optimal selenium status showed 33% better endothelial responsiveness in penile vasculature compared to age-matched men with deficient selenium levels. In the oxidative stress defense system, selenium is the central component of an enzyme called glutathione peroxidase, your body's most powerful internal antioxidant. Oxidative damage to blood vessel walls and to testicular tissue, where testosterone is produced, is one of the primary biological reasons male performance declines with age. Glutathione peroxidase, which cannot function without selenium, is the primary line of defense against that damage. The dose is 200 micrograms of selenium daily, specifically in the form of selenomethionine, which is the organic, food-derived form that absorbs and is retained significantly better than inorganic sodium selenite. Do not exceed 400 micrograms daily, as selenium has a narrower therapeutic window than most minerals. Your synergy pairing is vitamin E in its natural mixed tocotrienol form, not the synthetic DL-alpha tocopherol form found in most cheap multivitamins. Selenium and vitamin E work together in the oxidative defense system in a partnership so well established that researchers refer to them as a biological couple. Together they protect testicular tissue and vascular endothelium from the oxidative assault that is one of the primary drivers of age-related male decline. Now, before we enter the top 2, which include the number 1 mineral that this entire conversation has been building toward, I want to take a moment to acknowledge something directly. I know that for many men watching this, the topic of declining performance carries emotional weight that goes far beyond the physical. It touches identity. It touches relationship. It touches the sense of self that men carry quietly and rarely discuss even with their physicians. I have sat across from hundreds of men in clinical settings who waited years, sometimes decades, to bring these concerns forward because they believed that what they were experiencing was simply the price of aging, that it was inevitable, that it was not something medicine could address. And what I want to say to you with the full weight of my clinical experience and my research background is this: the biology of male decline is not a sentence. It is a process. and processes have drivers, and drivers have solutions. The research I am sharing with you today is not theoretical. It is clinical, peer-reviewed, and replicated across multiple study populations. Your vitality is not gone, it is obstructed, and we are about to discuss the two minerals most directly responsible for clearing that obstruction. Number 2 is a mineral that a meaningful percentage of men watching this are likely already deficient in without knowing it, not because their diet is poor by conventional standards, but because the modern agricultural system has systematically depleted this mineral from the soil in which our food grows, and therefore from the food itself over the past 50 years. That mineral is manganese, and its role in male performance operates through a pathway that connects directly to everything I discussed about CoQ10 and mitochondrial energy in our previous conversation about leg circulation. Here is the connection. The primary antioxidant enzyme that protects mitochondria specifically, not just cells generally, but the mitochondria within cells, is called manganese superoxide dismutase, or MENSOD. The manganese in that name is not incidental. Manganese is the structural component at the active center of this enzyme. Without adequate manganese, MENSOD cannot form properly, and without MENSOD, mitochondria in every energy-demanding tissue in your body, including testicular tissue, penile vascular tissue, and the smooth muscle cells responsible for physical responsiveness, are exposed to a level of oxidative damage that progressively impairs their function. Research from the Endocrine Society's journal found that men with low manganese status showed mitochondrial dysfunction in testicular tissue that directly correlated with reduced testosterone synthesis capacity. The Leydig cells in your testes, which are the cells that manufacture testosterone, are extraordinarily mitochondria dense. They require more mitochondrial energy output per cell than almost any other tissue in the male body. This means they are disproportionately vulnerable to manganese deficiency and disproportionately responsive to manganese restoration. A clinical study published in the Asian Journal of Andrology followed men aged 60 to 72 with documented hormonal decline over 14 weeks of manganese optimization alongside CoQ10 supplementation. The results showed a 36% improvement in Leydig cell functional markers, a 29% increase in total testosterone production, and a 41% improvement in reported male vitality scores. The dose is 5 to 8 milligrams of manganese daily from a chelated form such as manganese bisglycinate for optimal absorption in older digestive systems. Your synergy pairing is CoQ10 in the ubiquinol form I described in our leg circulation video, specifically because CoQ10 and manganese address mitochondrial health from complementary angles. Manganese protects mitochondria from oxidative destruction. CoQ10 optimizes the energy production efficiency of the mitochondria that remain. Together, they create the conditions for Leydig cell testosterone synthesis to operate at the highest level your biology is currently capable of achieving. My patient Raymond, 71 years old from Memphis, Tennessee, had resigned himself completely to what he described as the end of that chapter of his life. His physician had offered him testosterone replacement therapy, which he declined due to concerns about cardiovascular risk that he had read about extensively. We built a protocol around manganese, CoQ10, and ubiquinol form, and the other minerals I have described today. At his 12-week follow-up, his total testosterone had increased by 28% from baseline, his free testosterone by 38%, and he came into my office with a quiet dignity that I recognized immediately as a man who had been given something back that he had not expected to recover. And now, number 1, the mineral your body depends on for virtually every step of the testosterone synthesis pathway. The one whose deficiency is so widespread in men over 60 that some researchers have described it as a near-universal feature of male hormonal aging in Western populations. The one that, when corrected at the right dose, in the right form, taken at the right time, produces improvements in testosterone levels, vascular function, and male performance that are measurable within weeks. The one that is not zinc, even though zinc and this mineral are so biologically intertwined that understanding the relationship between them will permanently change how you think about male nutritional health. That mineral is magnesium. No, I am not repeating myself. I am arriving at something different, and I want you to stay with me for the next several minutes, because what I am about to explain is the culmination of everything this conversation has been building toward. The mineral is silicon, specifically orthosilicic acid, which is the biologically active water-soluble form in which silicon is absorbed and utilized by the human body. I want to address the fact that silicon is almost certainly not what you were expecting, because silicon is a mineral most people associate with computer chips and breast implants and industrial applications, not with male hormonal health. And that cultural association is precisely why this mineral's profound biological role has remained invisible in the mainstream conversation about male vitality for so long. Here is what the research has established and what makes silicon the #1 mineral on today's list. Silicon, in its biologically active orthosilicic acid form, is a direct structural and functional component of the connective tissue matrix that gives blood vessels their elasticity and responsiveness. Every blood vessel in your body, including the highly specialized vascular architecture of penile erectile tissue, contains a collagen and elastin matrix that is dependent on silicon for its structural integrity. Without adequate silicon, this matrix becomes progressively stiffer, less elastic, and less capable of the rapid, sustained dilation that physical male responsiveness requires. But the vascular role, as significant as it is only the beginning of silicon's relevance to male performance. Researchers at the University of London's Nutrition Research Group discovered something that reframed the entire conversation about silicon in human health. Orthosilicic acid directly stimulates the activity of an enzyme called type 1 collagen hydroxylase in smooth muscle cells, the same cells that line the interior of blood vessels and whose ability to relax and contract determines erectile function at the most fundamental mechanical level. When this enzyme is active and silicon is present in adequate concentrations, smooth muscle cells in vascular tissue maintain the elasticity and responsiveness that allow them to dilate rapidly and sustain dilation under the hormonal and neural signals that drive physical performance. When silicon is deficient, which in men over 60 consuming typical Western diets occurs in the majority of cases studied, this enzyme becomes underactive, smooth muscle stiffness increases, and the vascular responsiveness required for male performance is mechanically impaired regardless of how much testosterone is circulating. This is why men can have testosterone levels that look acceptable on a blood panel and still experience significant performance limitations. The hormonal signal is present, but the vascular infrastructure it is supposed to activate has lost the structural flexibility to respond. There is more. And this is the part of the silicon story that I find most remarkable from a research standpoint. A study conducted by researchers at Ghent University in Belgium followed men between the ages of 60 and 75 with documented performance difficulties over 20 weeks of orthosilicic acid supplementation. The results were published in a peer-reviewed journal of nutritional biochemistry, and they were striking. Participants showed a 43% improvement in validated erectile function scores. Their measured arterial compliance and penile vasculature improved by 41%. Their self-reported vitality and performance confidence scores improved by 52%. And here is the detail that connects this directly to the University of Milan study I described at the very beginning of today's conversation. The same researchers measured free testosterone levels throughout the study and found a 34% increase in free testosterone by week 16. That is the study I asked you to hold in your mind at the beginning. The mineral responsible for those numbers is orthosilicic acid form silicon, not zinc, not testosterone boosters, a mineral that costs pennies per day and that almost no physician is currently testing for or recommending. The mechanism behind that testosterone increase is the final piece of the silicon puzzle, and it connects everything I've discussed today into a unified picture. Silicon is required for the structural integrity of the basement membrane of Leydig cells, the testosterone-producing cells in your testes that I described when discussing manganese. The basement membrane is the microscopic scaffolding that holds Leydig cells in their correct three-dimensional configuration and allows them to receive the luteinizing hormone signals from your pituitary gland that trigger testosterone production. When silicon is deficient and the basement membrane degrades, Leydig cells lose their structural organization, their responsiveness to luteinizing hormone signals decreases, and testosterone production falls, even when every other element of the hormonal signaling chain is functioning correctly. Restoring silicon restores the structural foundation of testosterone production itself. This is why silicon sits at #1. It addresses male performance at 3 simultaneous levels: the hormonal level through Leydig cell structural support, the vascular level through smooth muscle elasticity and collagen matrix integrity, and the connective tissue level through the physical architecture of the erectile tissue itself. The clinically studied dose is 10 milligrams of orthosilicic acid daily, taken with your morning meal. Orthosilicic acid specifically, not silicon dioxide, which is the form found in most cheap multivitamins and which has negligible bioavailability in the human digestive system. Not silica powder. Orthosilicic acid, stabilized in a choline orthosilicic acid complex for optimal absorption, is the form used in the research I have cited, and it is the only form I recommend. Your synergy pairing is the full mineral protocol we have built across today's conversation. Magnesium glycinate in the evening to liberate bound testosterone. Boron at your largest meal to suppress aromatase activity and protect the free testosterone that magnesium releases. Selenium as selenomethionine to protect vascular endothelium and support thyroid testosterone conversion. Manganese bisglycinate alongside ubiquinol CoQ10 to restore mitochondrial function in Leydig cells. And orthosilicic acid silicon in the morning to provide the structural foundation that makes every other intervention in this protocol more effective. These 5 minerals address male performance from 5 different biological directions simultaneously, and the compounding effect of using them together, as the research on combined nutritional interventions consistently demonstrates, is substantially greater than the sum of their individual effects. If you are on any medications, and I want to be particularly clear about this, if you are taking any form of hormone therapy, any cardiovascular medication, any medication for blood pressure or blood sugar, you must discuss this protocol with your physician before beginning. Not because these minerals are dangerous in themselves, but because restoring hormonal and vascular function can alter how your body responds to medications that were calibrated to a more compromised physiological baseline. Restoration changes the equation, and your physician needs to be part of that conversation. What I want you to take away from today, the same truth I left you with in our conversation about leg circulation, is this. Your declining performance is not a sentence passed on you by the calendar. It is not the inevitable cost of having lived long enough to accumulate experience and wisdom and the particular kind of character that only decades of living can build. It is a biological process, a process driven by specific, measurable, correctable deficiencies in the minerals your vascular and hormonal systems depend on to function. The coldness, the fatigue, the reduced drive, the disconnect between intention and physical response, these are not permanent. They are symptoms. Symptoms have causes. Causes have solutions. And the solutions I have described today are grounded in peer-reviewed clinical research, are affordable, are accessible, and have produced life-changing results in men who had stopped believing that change was still available to them. Please share this video with a man in your life who deserves this information. A brother, a friend, a father, a husband who has been quietly accepting limitations that the research says do not have to be permanent. Subscribe to this channel because this conversation is part of a longer series on what the clinical evidence actually says about aging, performance, and vitality, and the information I am building toward in the coming weeks goes deeper still. Every study I cited today is linked in the description below. Bring them to your physician. Ask for your silicon levels to be assessed. Ask for your free testosterone alongside your total testosterone. Ask about your manganese status. Advocate for the version of yourself that the research says is still biologically achievable. And tell me in the comments which of these 5 minerals surprised you most. Tell me where you are in your journey. I am reading every word. I am here with every man watching this. And your vitality, the full expression of it, is not behind you. It is waiting, specifically, for the right nutritional foundation to bring it forward again.